Something is wrong in the darkness. The more we gaze, the more the sky seems to answer with riddles, not truths. Worlds appear where no worlds should exist. Planets shimmer and then vanish as if hiding from our telescopes. There are storms that circle forever, oceans that boil like cauldrons, and stars so large they swallow entire systems whole. What if the universe is not the silent stage we imagined, but a labyrinth of anomalies, an endless puzzle whispering to us through light and shadow? Tonight, we drift together into this labyrinth. For the next 3 hours, we will wander softly through 20 doors of mystery. Each one will open with a shock, steady itself with science, and then reveal something stranger than before. From Earth-like planets locked in eternal night, to giant rings stretching across the sky, to galaxies that move as though pulled by invisible hands, every story will deepen the wonder, and every answer will leave behind a larger question. So breathe gently, let your mind rest in the dark, and listen. The more we look, the less we understand. And perhaps that is the universe's most beautiful invitation. Part 1. The most Earth-like world that should not exist. The most dangerous discovery is not a world made of fire, or one that rains glass sideways in the dark. The most dangerous discovery is the one that looks too much like home. Because what if the universe has already placed before us a mirror, an Earth that should not exist, and it is staring back at us from only 12.5 light years away? Imagine for a moment the most Earth-like world ever found, the closest twin we have, sitting almost at our doorstep. And yet this twin is wrong. Its time is broken, its surface divided forever between fire and ice. A planet that whispers of life, but also of extinction. That is Teegarden B, and it is the first riddle of our long night's journey. Teegarden's star is a small, faint red dwarf discovered only 2 decades ago. It glows too weakly to see with the naked eye, but in 2019 astronomers detected 2 rocky planets circling it. One of them, Teegarden B, stunned the scientific community. Its Earth Similarity Index was measured at 0.95, almost indistinguishable from Earth itself. Mars, the world we dream of colonizing, doesn't even reach 0.7. By every measure of size, mass, and orbit, this was the most Earth-like exoplanet ever discovered. For a brief moment, it felt as if the universe had quietly delivered the answer to humanity's oldest question: are we alone? But the resemblance bends and breaks the closer we look. Teegarden B orbits so tightly that it completes a year in only 5 Earth days. That closeness means the planet is tidally locked, forever showing one face to its star while the other is plunged into unending night. One hemisphere burns beneath a sun that never sets, seas boiled away into vapor. The other lies frozen beneath a night so permanent even air itself could freeze. Between these extremes lies only a thin ribbon of twilight, a fragile borderland where day and night hold each other in delicate truce. If life exists here, it must cling to this thin band of eternal dusk. Picture that horizon, a sky that never changes, painted forever in violet and copper. On one side, the edge of day glowing like a furnace door. On the other, the edge of night stretching into frozen silence. Shadows that never move, a sun that never rises, never sets, a world without time. Would life here evolve eyes tuned to dim light? Bodies that glow faintly, drawing energy from the red star's weak rays? Or would life retreat into oceans warmed from within, hiding beneath the protective weight of water, building its existence where no storm can strip it away? Yet the deeper mystery lies not in its geography but in its age. Teegarden's star is ancient, perhaps 8 billion years old, twice the age of our Sunday. If life began there, it has had billions of years longer to grow, change, and advance. Imagine civilizations already ancient when Earth was still molten rock. Imagine wisdom so old it could look at our skyscrapers, our satellites, our telescopes, and see them as nothing more than a child's first scratches in the sand. But what if they are gone? Red dwarfs, even in their quiet age, still unleash flares of radiation that can sterilize a world in an instant. What if Teegarden B once teemed with life but now drifts as a silent grave? Its twilight oceans dried, its sky stripped away, its history buried in the dust of time. That is the wound at the heart of this discovery. Teegarden B is not just another planet. It is a mirror. It shows us how precarious habitability is, how fragile balance can be. Our Earth, too, orbits in a narrow zone. Shift a little closer to the sun, and our oceans would have boiled. Shift a little farther, and they would have frozen. We exist only because of an exquisite precision, a cosmic accident so unlikely it feels like a gift. Teagarden B reminds us how easily that balance can fail. And yet, we cannot turn away, because possibility clings like mist. The James Webb Space Telescope was built to probe exoplanet atmospheres, to search for fingerprints of life in the thin air of distant worlds. Someday, perhaps soon, Webb may be pointed at Teagarden B. If it finds water vapor, or oxygen, or methane balanced in ways that hint at biology, humanity will know the most Earth-like planet we have ever seen is not silent. It breathes. But what if the signal is stranger? What if Webb sees a chemical pattern too precise, too deliberate, an atmosphere tuned like an instrument, sculpted not by chance, but by design? Imagine the hush that would fall over Earth if we discovered that Teagarden B's sky was engineered. The most Earth-like world, not a second home, but the relic of a civilization far older than our own. The thought is almost unbearable, and yet it lingers, because the most Earth-like world ever found is not just close, it is here, on the edge of our imagination, on the edge of our technology. It is not abstract, not distant. It is a possibility, it is a warning, and above all, it is an invitation. This is how the universe speaks. For every answer, it leaves behind deeper shadows. For every discovery, it asks more questions than it resolves. We thought we were looking for another Earth. Instead, we found a mirror showing us both our fragility and our future. And this is only the first doorway. Beyond Teagarden B lies an even stranger mystery, a planet that does not simply test the edges of habitability, but vanishes before our eyes. A planet discovered, then gone, then found again, slipping in and out of existence like a ghost. That is where we must drift next. If this quiet voyage tonight has brought you even a small moment of peace, I am truly grateful you've chosen to share it with me. A gentle like, or a soft tap on subscribe, is not just a click, it is a lantern in the dark, helping me continue these night-long journeys. And if you would like, I would love to know where you are listening from, and to hear your thoughts or suggestions. Your words, short or long, are like little stars guiding me forward, and I treasure them deeply. And so we leave Teagarden B behind, its twilight seas and its haunting silence still echoing in our minds. Ahead of us waits another riddle, Kepler 413b, the planet that vanishes before our eyes. Part 2. The planet that vanishes before our eyes. What if the most unsettling thing is not a world we cannot reach, but a world we cannot even hold in sight? What if the universe is teasing us, showing us a planet one moment, then snatching it away the next like a phantom playing hide and seek across the abyss? This is not imagination. It is the story of Kepler 413b, the disappearing planet, a riddle that makes astronomers doubt their own instruments, and perhaps their own eyes. It began in 2014, when data from NASA's Kepler Space Telescope revealed a strange rhythm in the starlight of a system about 2,300 light-years away. Kepler's job was simple in principle: stare at thousands of stars and wait for the tiny dimming that happens when a planet crosses in front. Those dips in light should repeat like clockwork, each orbit as steady as a heartbeat. But Kepler 413b did not play by those rules. It transited for a time, then stopped. The dips vanished, the planet was gone, and then, hundreds of days later, it reappeared, as if nothing had happened. Imagine the frustration in the control rooms. The data stream shows a shadow moving across a star, then silence, then another shadow long after the schedule predicted. At first, it seemed like error, perhaps dust, noise, or miscalculation, but as the pattern unfolded, astronomers realized they were watching something real, something the laws of orbital mechanics had twisted into a spectacle. Kepler 413b was not circling one star, but two. It is a circumbinary planet, a world caught in the gravity of a binary system, and its orbit is tilted and unstable, so its transits drift in and out of alignment. To us, across 2,000 light-years, the planet vanishes, not because it ceases to exist, but because geometry hides it from view. That explanation is enough for science. But for the human heart, it is not enough. because the feeling remains, a world that flickers in and out of reality, a ghost planet we cannot trust. What if this vanishing act is not mere orbit, but a clue that the cosmos itself is more elusive than we ever imagined? Picture the surface of Kepler 413b, if you can. It is a Neptune-sized world, most likely swaddled in gas, blue and swollen. Its skies lit not by one star, but by two. Day would not be simple. Imagine standing beneath twin suns, their light overlapping in strange colors, their shadows bending in ways our minds cannot picture. And, because the orbit is unstable, seasons would not follow any rhythm. Winters might last decades, summers may vanish suddenly, storms could surge without warning. The climate would be chaos, oceans churned by unpredictable tides, winds howling as gravity tugs first one way, then another. A world like that is not merely unstable, it is haunted by change. But what if such instability breeds resilience? What if life, forced to adapt to endless unpredictability, becomes something far stronger than life on Earth? Here, we complain of weather shifts, of ice ages, of storms. But imagine organisms shaped by centuries of abrupt climate swings, by skies that never repeat themselves. Life there, if it exists, would know no comfort, no stability, only the necessity of transformation. And in transformation, perhaps, lies strength beyond anything we can conceive. And yet, there is another possibility. Perhaps instability is not life's ally, but its executioner. Perhaps Kepler 413b is a planet forever too wild to settle, its seas boiling and freezing in cycles too fast for biology to keep pace. Perhaps it is doomed to be nothing more than a graveyard of possibilities, a reminder that not every orbit permits the long patience that life demands. But the deeper mystery lies in what this flicker does to us. Astronomers rely on regularity, transits that tick like metronomes, equations that predict with certainty, yet here is a planet that resists our neat boxes, vanishing for 800 days at a time, as if mocking the very methods we use to know it. We pride ourselves on logic, but the cosmos whispers, "Your logic is fragile. You think in lines, but I move in spirals." What if other planets are playing the same game? What if entire populations of worlds slip in and out of sight, unseen because their orbits tilt, because their stars flicker, because geometry conspires against us? Perhaps the catalog of exoplanets we hold so proudly is nothing but the shallowest surface, while beneath it lies a vast, unseen ocean of worlds that refuse to reveal themselves. And here comes the sting, because Kepler 413b reminds us of another truth. We see only what chance allows us to see. If Earth orbited another star, would we be noticed? Our transit is thin, our signal faint, our existence balanced on probabilities. Maybe we too are the vanishing world obvious to some eyes in the galaxy, invisible to others. Maybe even now, another intelligence is staring at our sun, waiting for a dip in light that never comes, and concluding, there is nothing there. That thought is almost unbearable. It means our place in the cosmos is not just fragile, it is easily overlooked. But pause. Breathe. Kepler 413b is more than a puzzle of orbits. It is a parable. It tells us that the universe will not yield all its secrets easily. That some truths slip between our fingers, not because they do not exist, but because we are not yet looking in the right way. It tells us that discovery is not a straight line, but a flicker, a dance, a patience. Imagine the astronomers waiting year after year, eyes fixed on a single star, wondering if the ghost will return. And then one night it does. A shadow crosses, a world reappears. Proof that patience in astronomy is rewarded, that sometimes the universe vanishes only to return with greater force. And still, the question remains, what if this vanishing act is not just orbit, but omen? A reminder that we can never be certain, that the ground beneath our logic can tilt at any moment. The more we look, the less we understand. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps mystery itself is the invitation. But our journey does not stop here. Kepler 413b may vanish, but other worlds rage with fire so intense they burn themselves alive. There are planets where the temperature surges 1,000 degrees in hours. Storms circle at supersonic speeds, and skies are ripped apart by violent winds. Worlds not haunted by absence, but by excess. And that is where we will drift next. If you are still here, drifting softly with me through this night, I want to thank you. Your presence makes this long voyage more than just words, it makes it a shared wonder. And though I ask only gently, know that a quiet like or a soft tap on subscribe is a lantern in the dark, helping me keep telling these stories. And if you wish, share with me where you are listening from, or what thoughts crossed your mind. Your words are like stars scattered across my night sky, and I treasure every one. Now, close your eyes a little tighter, and let the thought linger. A planet that vanishes, a world that mocks our certainty. Ahead lies a harsher vision, HD 80606b, the world of violent seasons, where climate itself explodes into chaos. And so, we step into the storm. Part 3. The planet of exploding seasons. What if there is a world where seasons do not drift gently as they do on Earth, but explode, erupting like tempests, tearing the sky open in hours, boiling clouds into chaos? What if the climate itself becomes an executioner, rushing from calm to catastrophe faster than life could ever adapt? Such a world exists. Its name is HD 80606b, and it is one of the strangest, most violent planets humanity has ever found. Unlike the ghostly vanishing act of Kepler 413b, HD 80606b does not hide, it flaunts its fury. Located 190 light-years away in the constellation Ursa Major, this gas giant is about the size of Jupiter, but its orbit is unlike anything we know. It traces an elongated, eccentric path around its star, swinging far out into cold space, then plunging inward like a comet falling toward fire. Every 111 days, it dives so close to its star that it is baked in radiation, only to whip back out again. This cosmic pendulum sets the stage for seasons, not measured in months or years, but in violent surges. When HD 80606b rushes past its star, its atmosphere is ripped into chaos. In just a few short hours, the temperature of its sky skyrockets from around 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit to more than 2,200 degrees. Imagine standing on a world where the heat of an entire year slams into you in the space of a single afternoon. Astronomers using the Spitzer Space Telescope watched this happen. They measured the infrared glow, saw the planet's dayside flare up like a forge, and then watched the heat dissipate into furious winds. The atmosphere became a cauldron, winds screaming at thousands of miles per hour, dragging energy from the starlit side to the dark side, creating storms of unimaginable ferocity. What would it mean to stand under such a sky? You would not live long enough to describe it. The clouds would ignite into rolling thunderheads of iron vapor, quartz, particles shredding the winds like sandblasters. Gas giants have no solid ground, only endless depth. To fall into HD 80606b would be to fall forever, crushed deeper and deeper by pressure, heat, and storms. A world like this cannot harbor life as we know it, but it can harbor fear. And yet, science whispers something stranger. The orbit of HD 80606b is not normal. It should not be so eccentric, so elongated. Some astronomers believe it was thrown into this path by a distant companion star in the system, tugging on its orbit for eons until it became a cosmic slingshot. Others wonder if massive collisions in its youth sent it tumbling into this wild track. But then comes the unsettling question. What if this instability is not random? What if some unseen mechanism, some hidden hand, keeps this world on a leash, whipping it inward and outward like a stone on a sling? Here is where awe turns to dread, because when we see something so extreme, we must ask, is it an outlier or a clue? If such violent seasons exist here, how many other worlds live in similar chaos? Could there be rocky planets, Earth-sized, caught in eccentric orbits that heat and freeze them in deadly cycles? What if we find a so-called Earth twin one day, only to discover it is cursed with HD 80606b's fate, oceans boiling one month, freezing the next, a planet that forever betrays its own potential for life? But pause. Let us not forget, nature is endlessly inventive. Life on Earth has endured ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic winters. Life here is a survivor. So the question must be asked, could life endure even this? Could something, somewhere, evolve in the chaos of HD 80606b's violent skies? perhaps not in forms we recognize, but in forms so strange we cannot yet imagine them. Creatures that ride storms, feeding on temperature shifts, living in the atmosphere like eternal drifters. To us, such ideas sound like fantasy. But remember, we once thought no life could exist in boiling sulfur vents or beneath crushing glaciers, and yet Earth surprised us again and again. What if the chaos of HD 80606b is not a curse, but a crucible? A place where survival demands brilliance, where only the strongest adaptations persist? To us, it is horror. To the cosmos, it may be possibility. Still, the emotional wound of this world cuts deeper, because as we gaze upon it, we feel a kind of premonition. Earth's orbit is nearly circular, stable, a gift of geometry that allows our seasons to unfold gently. But what if that stability falters one day? What if gravitational tugs from passing stars, or the slow decay of cosmic balance, stretch our orbit into an ellipse like HD 80606b's? Our winters would be crueler, our summers unbearable, our climate less forgiving. In HD 80606b, we do not just see another planet, we see a possible future, a warning. And that is the strangeness of astronomy. Every discovery is not only about out there, it is about here. When we look at HD 80606b, we are not just studying a distant gas giant. We are glimpsing the fragility of stability, the razor's edge upon which our own survival rests. Still, the planet holds its silence. It races, it burns, it storms, but it does not explain itself. It does not tell us why its orbit is so wild, or what waits in the depth of its atmosphere. We are left to imagine, and in imagination, the fear grows stronger. What if, beneath those storms, hidden by clouds of vapor, there is something artificial? What if the orbit is maintained not by chance, but by intent? Could a civilization long gone have engineered it, perhaps as a beacon, a warning, a monument to chaos? Such speculation is not science, but it is the poetry of wonder. And sometimes, the poetry itself is what keeps us awake at night. Breathe now, softly. The story of HD 80606b does not end with explanation. It ends with the same mystery with which it began. A planet tearing itself apart in hours, a reminder that the universe is not gentle. The more we look, the less we understand, and perhaps that is why we cannot stop looking. But as violent as this world is, even more haunting visions await us. Imagine two planets locked so close that they pull each other into spasms of earthquakes and fire. Two neighbors dancing toward inevitable collision. That is where we will go next. So let the storms of HD 80606b fade in your mind, like thunder receding across an alien sky. And prepare, because ahead lies a vision even stranger. Kepler 3.6, the twin worlds doomed to meet. Part 4. The doomed dance of twin worlds. What if two worlds lived so close together that they could see each other rise in the sky like swollen moons? What if every few weeks, their orbits brought them face to face so close their gravity tore at each other's skin, shaking mountains, stirring oceans, cracking crusts? And what if, deep in their shared future, they are destined to collide, two planets merging into fire? This is not fantasy. This is the haunting story of Kepler 3.6, a system where two very different worlds are bound in a doomed dance, orbiting so near each other that their closeness defies all comfort. Discovered in 2012 by the Kepler Space Telescope, the Kepler 3.6 system lies in the constellation Lyra, about 1,200 light-years away. It hosts two planets, unimaginatively named Kepler 3.6b and Kepler 3.6c, but their story is anything but dull. Kepler 3.6b is a rocky super-Earth, about 1.5 times the size of our planet, dense and heavy, with an iron heart and a surface that might once have glowed with magma. Its sibling, Kepler 3.6c, is very different, a puffier mini-Neptune, nearly 4 times Earth's size, wrapped in thick gases, its surface hidden under layers of atmosphere. And yet, these two wildly different planets orbit so close together that the distance between them at their closest approach is less than 1.2 million miles, barely 5 times the distance between Earth and the Moon. Pause there and let it sink in. On cosmic scales, planets are supposed to keep their distance. Even Mercury, the innermost planet of our solar system, is millions of miles from its neighbor. But in Kepler 3.6, two entire worlds pass close enough that, if you stood on one and looked up, the other would loom in the sky as a gigantic, breathtaking disk. Imagine our moon filling not just a corner of the night, but stretching across the heavens like an ominous shield, its mountains visible with the naked eye, its clouds swirling before your very gaze. Scientists believe this proximity cannot last. The orbits of Kepler 3.6b and 36c are unstable, their gravitational tug-of-war locked in a dance that can only end in catastrophe. Perhaps in tens of millions of years, perhaps in hundreds, the two will eventually spiral into each other, their cores smashing, their atmospheres bursting, their very existence reduced to fire and fragments. The odds of a collision are estimated at over 90%. If planets can have destiny, then Kepler 3.6's destiny is written in fire. But what would life mean under such a sky? Imagine being born into a world where the horizon is dominated by a sister planet, where eclipses are constant, where tides rise and fall not once a day, but in chaotic surges pulled by two immense bodies in near embrace. Earth's tides, gentle enough to sculpt shorelines, are ruled by the moon. But in Kepler 3.6, the tides would be monsters, oceans rising like mountains, crashing back with world-shaping force. Continents would split, volcanoes would roar as crusts cracked. To live there would be to live in a constant state of upheaval. And yet, life adapts. What if, against all odds, something thrived in that chaos? Creatures that knew only constant earthquakes, only endless storms, only skies pierced by the looming presence of another world. Perhaps they would worship the twin planet in the sky, not as a symbol of love, but as a reminder of mortality. Perhaps their myths would tell them that one day, the sky itself will fall. And unlike our myths, theirs would be true. There is something profoundly emotional about Kepler 3.6, because when we look at these two worlds, we see not just a scientific oddity, we see a metaphor. They are companions and rivals, neighbors and enemies, drawn together by gravity's embrace, but doomed by the very closeness that binds them. It is love and destruction fused into one, two worlds locked in a fatal waltz, unable to part, unable to survive together. And here is where the sting touches us. For is this not what humanity fears, too? To be so close to another, yet pulled into ruin? To love something so intensely that the embrace becomes a collapse? The cosmos does not just give us facts, it gives us mirrors. And in Kepler 3.6, it gives us one of the most haunting mirrors of all. Proximity as both gift and curse. Astronomers marvel at the system, but they also scratch their heads. How did two such different planets, one rocky, one gaseous, form so close to each other? Our models of planetary birth struggle to explain it. Gas giants like Neptune are supposed to form farther out, where ices and gases are plentiful. Rocky planets are supposed to form closer in, where heavy elements condense. But in Kepler 3.6, the rulebook is broken. Two wildly different worlds orbit almost side by side, as if the universe wanted to remind us that its imagination exceeds our equations. The more we look, the less we understand. And that is the refrain. Always. For every world that obeys the rules, another defies them. For every neat pattern, another breaks. And it is in the breaking that the beauty resides. But then comes the most chilling thought. What if Earth, too, one day finds itself with such a companion? The solar system is not static. Rogue planets wander the galaxy. Stars pass near. Gravitational nudges ripple through. What if, in some far future, a rogue world slips into our system, captured by the sun, orbiting close to us like a new and terrible neighbor? What if we looked up one night to see another planet swelling in our sky, its presence growing, its pull distorting tides and seasons? Kepler 3.6 is not just a curiosity, it is a warning. It shows us what closeness can cost. And still, we cannot turn away, because the image is too haunting. A world in the sky, so near you can see its storms, its continents, its colors, beautiful, terrifying, inevitable. That image lingers in the mind, a scar of imagination. The doomed dance of Kepler 36b and 36c is still unfolding, silent to us across 1,000 light-years. Perhaps they will endure for millions of years yet, locked in tension. But perhaps, even as we speak, their orbits are shifting, drawing tighter, preparing for the final embrace. We will not be here to see the collision. Humanity will be dust long before it happens. But knowing it is coming is enough. Enough to remind us of the fragility of orbits, the fragility of balance, the fragility of worlds, and perhaps the fragility of us. Close your eyes now and let the image linger. Two planets locked together, destined to destroy each other. A dance that is both beautiful and tragic. A story that feels both alien and heartbreakingly familiar. But our journey cannot stop here, for as haunting as Kepler 36 is, there are stranger visions still. Imagine a world not with one ring, like Saturn, but with dozens rings so vast they stretch across a sky wider than anything we have ever seen. A super Saturn, a world of impossible beauty. That is where we will drift next. Part 5. The world of impossible rings. What if Saturn's glorious rings, the shimmering halo that has mesmerized us for centuries, are not the grandest? What if somewhere, far beyond our reach, there is a planet whose rings are so vast, so extravagant, that they would stretch across the sky of Earth from horizon to horizon, blotting out the stars with their luminous sweep? This is no invention. Astronomers have glimpsed it, a super Saturn, a world crowned with rings 200 times larger than those of Saturn, a vision that seems less like astronomy and more like myth. The planet is known as J1407b, though some whisper of it simply as Super Saturn. Discovered in 2012, it orbits a young star about 420 light-years away in the constellation Centaurus. Its mass is still debated, perhaps dozens of times Jupiter's, but what sets it apart is not its size, it is its adornment. The first hints came when astronomers noticed the star it orbits dimming, not in the clean dip of a single planet transit, but in a jagged, prolonged pattern lasting weeks. Something immense was passing in front of the star, something with structure rings, dozens of them, perhaps 30 or more, spanning a radius of nearly 56 million miles. To compare, Saturn's rings, dazzling though they are, extend only a few 100,000 miles. J1407b's would be over 600 times larger, stretching wider than the orbit of Mercury. Pause and imagine it. Standing on a moon of such a world, you would look up at a sky filled not with scattered stars, but with luminous bands arching overhead like frozen rainbows of ice and dust. They would dominate every horizon, filling not just a slice of the sky, but all of it. Nights would never be dark. Days would be wrapped in curtains of light. To live beneath those rings would be to live beneath eternity itself. But such beauty carries a price. Rings do not last. Saturns are already fading, slowly raining into its atmosphere, a spectacle that will vanish in tens of millions of years. For J1407b, the same fate may await. Those impossible rings may not be stable, they may be the debris of shattered moons, torn apart by tidal forces. Or they may be the raw ingredients of new moons yet to form, a planetary nursery frozen in mid-creation. Either way, we may be watching a fleeting moment, a beauty that exists only briefly on cosmic timescales. And here lies the emotional sting. The most beautiful things in the universe are often the most temporary. Rings, like rainbows, are not eternal. They are fragile architectures, destined to collapse, to fade, to leave behind only memory. J1407b is a reminder that grandeur is not guaranteed longevity, that magnificence itself may be the most fleeting of qualities. Still, the mystery deepens. Why should such immense rings exist? Why here? Why now? Why so extravagant? Perhaps the planet once hosted a moon of colossal size, only for it to stray too close and be torn apart. Perhaps gravitational resonances with other bodies keep the rings from collapsing. Or perhaps we cannot help but ask, what if the symmetry is too perfect? What if the rings are sculpted, not by nature, but by something else? It is speculation, yes, but speculation is the ember of wonder. Imagine a civilization using planetary rings as a beacon, a signal carved into orbit, a way of saying, we were here. Or imagine structures within the rings, hidden in their glimmer, waiting for eyes sharp enough to see. To us, it is extravagant fantasy. To the universe, perhaps it is simply possibility. And then comes the haunting human reflection. What if we lived beneath such a sky? Would we spend our lives gazing upward, never tiring of the arcs of light? Would our myths be written in ring shadows, our poetry shaped by bands of fire across the heavens? Or would we, as humans always do, grow used to the miracle, ignoring the beauty until it is gone? We take for granted the rising of the moon, the sparkle of the stars, the delicate hues of twilight. What if another species, beneath impossible rings, learns to see wonder every night, never losing it, never forgetting? There is a loneliness in this thought, because we know that even Saturn's modest rings, the only true ones we can see with the naked eye, are temporary. They will fade, and future eyes will look upon Saturn and see only a pale giant stripped of its crown. How many other spectacles in the universe are already gone, vanished before we ever built our telescopes? How many remain, waiting for us to notice, before time erases them too? And here, we find the echo of mortality, for just as rings dissolve, so do we. Our lives, our civilizations, our stories, they, too, are temporary arcs, luminous for a moment, then gone. The cosmos reminds us, with gentle cruelty, that beauty is not permanence, but passing. The more we look, the less we understand. And yet, the less we understand, the more we are drawn in. That is the paradox of astronomy. It hurts us with its reminders of impermanence, and still, we cannot look away. But J1407b is not the only riddle of distance and fragility. Beyond rings and giants lies another mystery, the lonely wanderers. Planets without stars, worlds adrift in the dark, orphaned and cold. Imagine them, 100 billion worlds drifting silently between suns, each one a secret, each one a story. That is where we will drift next. So close your eyes now, and picture the impossible rings fading into twilight, a sky too beautiful to endure, and prepare your heart for something colder, lonelier, and perhaps even more haunting, the lost planets of the night. Part 5. The world of impossible rings. What if Saturn's glorious rings, the shimmering halo that has mesmerized us for centuries, are not the grandest? What if somewhere, far beyond our reach, there is a planet whose rings are so vast, so extravagant, that they would stretch across the sky of Earth from horizon to horizon, blotting out the stars with their luminous sweep? This is no invention. Astronomers have glimpsed it, a super Saturn, a world crowned with rings 200 times larger than those of Saturn, a vision that seems less like astronomy and more like myth. The planet is known as J1407b, though some whisper of it simply as Super Saturn. Discovered in 2012, it orbits a young star about 420 light-years away in the constellation Centaurus. Its mass is still debated, perhaps dozens of times Jupiter's. But what sets it apart is not its size, it is its adornment. The first hints came when astronomers noticed the star at orbit's dimming, not in the clean dip of a single planet transit, but in a jagged, prolonged pattern lasting weeks. Something immense was passing in front of the star. Something with structure rings, dozens of them, perhaps 30 or more, spanning a radius of nearly 56 million miles. To compare, Saturn's rings, dazzling though they are, extend only a few 100,000 miles. J1407b's would be over 600 times larger, stretching wider than the orbit of Mercury. Pause and imagine it. Standing on a moon of such a world, you would look up at a sky filled not with scattered stars, but with luminous bands arching overhead like frozen rainbows of ice and dust. They would dominate every horizon, filling not just a slice of the sky but all of it. Nights would never be dark, days would be wrapped in curtains of light. To live beneath those rings would be to live beneath eternity itself. But such beauty carries a price. Rings do not last. Saturns are already fading, slowly raining into its atmosphere, a spectacle that will vanish in tens of millions of years. For J1407b, the same fate may await. Those impossible rings may not be stable, they may be the debris of shattered moons, torn apart by tidal forces. Or they may be the raw ingredients of new moons yet to form, a planetary nursery frozen in mid-creation. Either way, we may be watching a fleeting moment, a beauty that exists only briefly on cosmic timescales. And here lies the emotional sting. The most beautiful things in the universe are often the most temporary. Rings, like rainbows, are not eternal. They are fragile architectures, destined to collapse, to fade, to leave behind only memory. J1407b is a reminder that grandeur is not guaranteed longevity, that magnificence itself may be the most fleeting of qualities. Still, the mystery deepens. Why should such immense rings exist? Why here? Why now? Why so extravagant? Perhaps the planet once hosted a moon of colossal size, only for it to stray too close and be torn apart. Perhaps gravitational resonances with other bodies keep the rings from collapsing. Or perhaps we cannot help but ask, what if the symmetry is too perfect? What if the rings are sculpted, not by nature, but by something else? It is speculation, yes, but speculation is the ember of wonder. Imagine a civilization using planetary rings as a beacon, a signal carved into orbit, a way of saying, we were here. Or imagine structures within the rings, hidden in their glimmer, waiting for eyes sharp enough to see. To us, it is extravagant fantasy. To the universe, perhaps it is simply possibility. And then comes the haunting human reflection. What if we lived beneath such a sky? Would we spend our lives gazing upward, never tiring of the arcs of light? Would our myths be written in ring shadows, our poetry shaped by bands of fire across the heavens? Or would we, as humans always do, grow used to the miracle, ignoring the beauty until it is gone? We take for granted the rising of the moon, the sparkle of the stars, the delicate hues of twilight. What if another species, beneath impossible rings, learns to see wonder every night, never losing it, never forgetting? There is a loneliness in this thought, because we know that even Saturn's modest rings, the only true ones we can see with the naked eye, are temporary. They will fade, and future eyes will look upon Saturn and see only a pale giant stripped of its crown. How many other spectacles in the universe are already gone, vanished, before we ever built our telescopes? How many remain, waiting for us to notice, before time erases them too? And here, we find the echo of mortality, for just as rings dissolve, so do we. Our lives, our civilizations, our stories, they, too, are temporary arcs, luminous for a moment, then gone. The cosmos reminds us, with gentle cruelty, that beauty is not permanence, but passing. The more we look, the less we understand, and yet, the less we understand, the more we are drawn in. That is the paradox of astronomy. It hurts us with its reminders of impermanence, and still, we cannot look away. But J1407b is not the only riddle of distance and fragility. Beyond rings and giants lies another mystery, the lonely wanderers, planets without stars, worlds adrift in the dark, orphaned and cold. Imagine them, 100 billion worlds drifting silently between suns, each one a secret, each one a story. That is where we will drift next. So close your eyes now, and picture the impossible rings fading into twilight, a sky too beautiful to endure, and prepare your heart for something colder, lonelier, and perhaps even more haunting, the lost planets of the night. Part 7. The planet that lied to our eyes. What if the universe does not simply confuse us, but deceives us outright? What if there are worlds that wear masks, showing us one face through our telescopes, only to rip it away later, revealing a reality utterly different? The story of WASP 96b is not just a tale of science. It is a reminder that even truth in astronomy can be a mirage, that sometimes the sky itself lies to our eyes. At first glance, WASP 96b seemed easy to understand. Discovered in 2013, it was described as a hot Saturn, a gas giant bloated by heat, circling its star once every 3.5 days. It was supposed to be textbook, ordinary, predictable, a benchmark planet for study. And then, in 2018, astronomers measured its atmosphere, and came to a startling conclusion. This world was cloudless. Not thin clouds, not faint haze, nothing. A sky perfectly transparent, a rare prize among exoplanets. To scientists, this was a gift. A clear atmosphere meant they could read its spectrum easily, studying its composition without interference. It was, in essence, the universe opening a window for us. But the window was false. In July 2022, the James Webb Space Telescope turned its golden eyes toward WASP 96b, and the illusion collapsed. Instead of a crystal-clear sky, Webb found evidence of water vapor and thick, rolling clouds. A world once thought naked was, in fact, clothed in mist. The contradiction was undeniable. Two telescopes, two stories. Which was the truth? Both had data, both had precision, but only one revealed what lay beneath. And here is the unsettling part. For years, we believed one version of WASP 96b. We wrote papers, we used it as a reference, we told its story with confidence. But the universe was laughing quietly. The mask was waiting to fall. And when Webb tore it away, we realized the cosmos had tricked us. Or perhaps we had tricked ourselves. Pause for a moment and picture it. WASP 96b is enormous, larger than Jupiter, but far lighter, its atmosphere swollen by heat. It orbits so close to its star that its skies are blasted with radiation, temperatures soaring above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Its year is shorter than a week. Its clouds are not gentle Earth-like wisps, but towering, curtains of haze, thick with minerals, sculpted by winds howling thousands of miles per hour. Imagine standing on a floating platform in those skies. The horizon is not blue, but golden brown, shifting, glowing, burning. Lightning may arc across the haze, silent in the vacuum, but brilliant in fury. This is no paradise. It is a furnace, and yet it is also a teacher. Because the true lesson is not about WASP 96b's weather, it is about humility. If one planet can trick us so thoroughly, how many others are misleading us right now? How many facts in our exoplanet catalogs are illusions, waiting for sharper eyes to reveal the lies? The James Webb Telescope is powerful, but even Webb is not infinite. There will always be another layer, another deception. The cosmos is not a book we read once. It is a palimpsest, written and erased, rewritten and blurred, daring us to misread. And still, the beauty lingers, because even in deception, there is wonder. To discover that WASP 96b holds water vapor is to remember that the essential molecule of life is not rare, not precious, but widespread. Clouds roll not only on Earth, but on alien worlds scorching under foreign suns. Water is not Earth's alone, it is the cosmos's handwriting, scribbled everywhere. And though WASP 96b is too hot, too stormy, too wild for life, it still whispers that life's ingredients may be common, that somewhere else, under gentler skies, clouds may cradle oceans, and oceans may cradle minds. But the story unsettles further, because if planets can lie, then what of stars? What of galaxies? What if reality itself is layered in illusions, and we are always just one telescope away from discovering that everything we thought we knew was wrong? This is both terrifying and intoxicating. Terrifying because it means certainty is impossible. Intoxicating because it means mystery is eternal. And perhaps that is the point. The universe does not want to be solved, it wants to be pursued. Every deception is an invitation, every contradiction a doorway. WASP 96b is not just a planet. It is a reminder that science is not a collection of answers, but a dance with uncertainty. Still, there is one more haunting thought. If planets can wear masks, could civilizations do the same? Could advanced life, somewhere in the galaxy, hide its world in plain sight, cloaking its atmosphere, misleading any telescope that dares to look? What if the masks we see are not only natural, but intentional? What if deception itself is a survival strategy in the cosmos? The thought lingers, unsettling, alluring, impossible to shake. Breathe now, slowly. Let the image of WASP 96b's false sky dissolve in your mind. Remember how certain we were. Remember how quickly certainty fell. The more we look, the less we understand. And the less we understand, the more the stars beckon us forward. But our journey does not end here, for as strange as this deception is, there are worlds even more disturbing, planets of nightmare, where diamonds fall as rain, where darkness swallows all light, where stars consume their children whole. These are not worlds that merely trick us. They are worlds that terrify us, and that is where we drift next. Close your eyes and let the thought linger. Truth is fragile, perception is fleeting, certainty is a mask. Ahead of us lies horror itself, the nightmare planets, where the laws of beauty give way to something darker. Part 8. The Nightmare Worlds. What if the universe has nightmares of its own worlds so twisted, so impossible, that even the word planet feels inadequate? What if out there, drifting among the stars, are spheres where light itself is swallowed, where diamonds rain from the sky, where time seems to end not in silence, but in fire? These are not inventions. These are real places, catalogued by astronomers, glimpsed through telescopes, recorded in numbers that feel more like omens than facts. We call them planets, but they are nightmares. The first is a world of darkness, TRES-2b. At first, scientists thought they had made an error. This gas giant reflects less than 1% of the starlight that touches it. Blacker than coal, darker than acrylic paint, it is the darkest world ever found. Imagine standing in its atmosphere, looking down at a horizon that should be lit by a nearby star only to see nothing. No glow, no reflection, only blackness. Even Jupiter, with its swirling belts, reflects 50% of the sunlight that touches it. TRES-2b absorbs nearly all. The question lingers: why? What hides in that darkness? Perhaps exotic chemicals in its atmosphere, swallowing light. Perhaps some process we cannot yet imagine. Or perhaps darkness itself is its identity, a world that refuses to shine. Then there is 55 Cancri E, the diamond planet. Twice the size of Earth, it orbits so close to its star that a year lasts only 18 hours. Its surface burns at nearly 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt metal, hot enough to vaporize stone. But its composition betrays another secret. Rich in carbon, its pressures could crystallize vast regions of diamond. Imagine mountains of diamond, oceans of diamond, entire continents gleaming, locked in fire. And then imagine storms tearing through that burning gem, shards glittering like knives, a beauty that cuts. It is paradise turned into prison, wealth turned into death. The most valuable landscape in human history and the most lethal. But the nightmares deepen. Kepler 70b, the planet that should not exist, circles so close to its star that its surface bakes at 12,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hotter than most stars. Astronomers believe it may once have been the core of a star itself, stripped bare of its outer layers, left as a smoldering ember, masquerading as a planet, a world that once shone as a sun, now demoted, now punished, now bound in eternal fire. It is not just a nightmare, it is humiliation written in orbit. And then, the slowest terror of all, WASP-1-2b, a planet being devoured. Every orbit, its star pulls at it with tidal force, stripping gas from its body, feeding on it like a predator. Astronomers estimate that in just 10 million years, a blink of cosmic time, WASP-1-2b will be gone. Imagine a sky where your very atmosphere drifts upward in streams, stolen by the star above you, until nothing remains. Imagine watching your own death play out, orbit by orbit, knowing you are food for the very sun you serve. This is the fate of WASP-1-2b, not sudden, but slow, inevitable, merciless. Nightmare planets remind us of something we wish we could forget. The cosmos is not gentle. It is not built for comfort. For every Earth-like oasis, there are 100 furnaces, 1,000 voids, 1,000,000 prisons. And yet, we cannot look away, because in these nightmares, there is a dark seduction. They show us extremes. They show us the edges of possibility. They whisper, this, too, is part of reality. But the nightmares are not only in heat and darkness. Some rain glass sideways at thousands of miles per hour, storms of molten silica slicing through skies like blades. Others hold oceans of magma, churning endlessly beneath skies of vaporized rock. Some orbit so close to their stars that their atmospheres stream behind them like comet tails, bleeding into space. Each one is stranger than the last, and each one forces us to ask, what if life is not as fragile as we think? What if somewhere, even here, in these places of horror, something has adapted, something has claimed the fire, something has thrived in shadows? The more we look, the more the nightmares feel familiar. They are not just distant planets. They are reflections of our fears, darkness, greed, decay, hunger. They are the cosmos translating our terrors into landscapes. The planet that hides all light, the planet of diamonds no one can touch, the planet punished for ambition, the planet consumed by its parent. Each is a myth, and yet each is real. And here comes the sting, because as terrifying as they are, they remind us of a truth closer to home. Earth, too, has known nightmares. It has been a snowball, frozen from pole to pole. It has been a furnace, lava, and ash choking the air. It has suffered impacts, extinctions, floods, droughts. We call these alien worlds nightmares, but perhaps they are simply the cosmos holding up a mirror, saying, you too are fragile. You too could burn. You too could be devoured. But still, we search. Still, we gaze. Still, we whisper, show us more. Because the nightmares do not repel us, they compel us. They remind us that the cosmos is vast beyond comfort, strange beyond measure, terrifying beyond belief, and beautiful because of it. The more we look, the less we understand. And yet, the less we understand, the more the stars call us forward. And so, our journey continues. If nightmare planets haunt the galaxy, then ocean worlds sing to us with equal intensity, endless seas, unfathomable depths, alien waters that may cradle secrets beyond imagination. That is where we must go next. Close your eyes now, and let the nightmares fade. Let the darkness dissolve. Ahead lies water, endless, restless, eternal water. Part 9. The Endless Ocean Worlds. What if the most common landscapes in the galaxy are not mountains or deserts, not forests or fields, but oceans? Oceans so deep they drown imagination itself. What if the cosmos is not built of Earths, but of water worlds? Entire planets where no land rises, where seas stretch from horizon to horizon, bottomless, eternal. To us, oceans are vast, but to the universe, Earth's seas may be shallow puddles compared to the abysses of these alien spheres. Tonight, we drift into the endless ocean worlds, planets where water is not just a feature, but a destiny. One such place is Gliese 1214b, discovered orbiting a red dwarf just 48 light-years away. Astronomers call it a water world, though the word feels inadequate. It is about 2.7 times the size of Earth, with nearly 7 times the mass, and most of that bulk may be water. Not oceans a few miles deep, not even trenches like our Mariana, but oceans hundreds, perhaps thousands, of miles thick. Imagine falling into such a sea. No seabed, no shore, only downward, forever downward, into blackness where pressure crushes, where water itself transforms into strange new states. At the surface, Gliese 1214b's ocean might boil in a haze of steam, for the planet is hot nearly 500 degrees Fahrenheit. But descend deeper, and the water changes, compressing into exotic forms of ice, not cold but dense, crystalline, born of pressure rather than temperature. Beneath, still deeper, there may be superheated water, strange phases that do not exist on Earth, layers stacked like a cosmic layer cake of states we can scarcely imagine. To us, oceans are blue and welcoming. To the galaxy, oceans are labyrinths of physics. But pause, because the thought lingers. Could life exist here? We once thought water worlds uninhabitable, too alien for stability. But Earth has taught us humility. Our own planet hosts life in boiling vents, in frozen glaciers, in pressures that would crush us instantly. Why not in Gliese 1214b's seas? Imagine organisms drifting in layers of liquid above the ice, feeding on minerals, glowing faintly in perpetual twilight. Perhaps entire biospheres, stranger than fiction, exist beneath those alien waves. To them, land would be inconceivable. The concept of sky, of stars, would be fantasy. They would know only water, only the eternal embrace of the sea. And then comes the core. emotional sting. For if ocean worlds are common, if billions of them drift through the galaxy, then perhaps life itself is more aquatic than terrestrial. Perhaps most minds that ever arise do so beneath waves, not under skies. Perhaps civilizations bloom in bioluminescent gardens, trading light through currents, never knowing fire, never building towers, never gazing at stars. If so, then the great paradox is this: the galaxy could be alive with minds, and yet they would never leave their oceans, never reach space, never call to us across the void. They would be confined, luminous but isolated, civilizations drowned in beauty but bound in silence. Imagine that, entire empires beneath water, never knowing we exist, entire histories written in liquid, lost to us forever. The loneliness deepens, because perhaps we are not alone, but unreachable. Perhaps the ocean is not just a cradle, but a cage. But another possibility shimmers. What if aquatic life is not trapped? What if some have learned to build, not with fire and metal, but with pressure and chemistry? What if, even now, there are intelligences swimming in alien seas, crafting tools of water and magnetism, sending messages not by light, but by sound waves rippling through their planetary shells? Perhaps we are listening in the wrong way. Perhaps the signals we seek in radio are instead carried in vibrations, songs of the deep, echoes across oceans wider than worlds. The more we think, the heavier the wonder becomes. For if the cosmos is filled with water worlds, then Earth may not be the model of life, it may be the outlier. We think ourselves the norm, but perhaps we are rare. Perhaps our land, our fire, our sky are aberrations. Perhaps true normalcy in the galaxy is endless ocean, unbroken surface, hidden life. And if that is true, then we must ask, are we the exception or the mistake? Close your eyes now and picture it. A horizon with no land, no mountain, no forest, only water. Waves stretching unbroken across a world, storms circling endlessly, lightning flickering on clouds above seas that never end. And beneath, miles upon miles of depth, filled with creatures we cannot imagine, each adapted to pressures and physics we can scarcely describe. It is a nightmare to us, and yet, to them, it is paradise. And still, the mystery lingers, for we do not yet know what waits inside Gliese 1214 BCs, or those of countless other ocean worlds. Perhaps nothing, perhaps everything. But the cosmos has shown us again and again, the strangest places are often the most fertile. Life clings to extremes, and the more we look, the more we realize that the question is not whether the universe harbors oceans, it is whether it harbors silence. And so, we drift onward, from oceans to nurseries, from worlds to stars themselves. For beyond the mystery of alien seas lies something even more profound, the cradles of creation, the places where stars are born, where new systems ignite, where the future of life itself is written in clouds of fire. That is where our journey must go next. Let the ocean fade behind your eyes. Let the endless water recede into silence. Ahead lies the Orion Nebula, a cosmic womb, a place where suns are being born even as we speak. A place not of endings, but of beginnings. Part 10. The Cosmic Cradle of Stars. What if the universe has nurseries, wombs of light, where suns are born by the thousands, each one destined to blaze for billions of years? What if hidden in the black of space are clouds so immense that they can cradle entire generations of stars, their light not yet kindled, their futures not yet written? And what if, within those nurseries, we are also glimpsing our own origin story? For every star, including our sun, began this way in a cosmic cradle of gas and dust. Tonight, we drift into one of the greatest of them all, the Orion Nebula. Look at the night sky with the naked eye, and the Orion constellation is already a jewel. Its belt of 3 bright stars, its sword dangling below. But through a telescope, that sword dissolves into haze, a smear of glowing gas, a cloud alive with light. This is the Orion Nebula, just over 1,300 light-years away, one of the brightest star-forming regions visible to Earth. What appears to us as a wisp is, in truth, a colossal structure nearly 25 light-years across. It is not empty air. It is gas, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, sculpted by radiation and gravity into curtains and caverns. It is a womb, a place where stars are being born as we speak. Astronomers have pointed every great telescope at Orion. The Hubble gave us images of pillars, towers of gas, lit like stained glass windows in a cathedral. The James Webb Telescope, with its infrared eyes, pierced even deeper, revealing disks of dust around infant stars, disks that may one day become planets. In the Orion Nebula alone, we have counted hundreds of these protoplanetary disks, each a seed of a future system. Imagine it, hundreds of newborn suns, each surrounded by spinning cradles of dust and rock, each perhaps destined to grow worlds, oceans, forests, civilizations. To look at Orion is to look at potential itself, raw and unshaped. But beauty is not gentle. Starbirth is violence. In the cold depths of the nebula, gravity squeezes pockets of gas until they collapse. As they fall inward, they heat, ignite, fuse. A star is born not in silence, but in collapse and fire. Surrounding gas is blown outward. Shock waves ripple. Newborn stars scorch their neighbors with ultraviolet light, shaping the clouds into tendrils and pillars. What looks like serenity in photographs is, in truth, chaos. Creation is never quiet. It roars. And yet, there is awe in the violence, because when we look at these cradles, we are looking at our own past. The sun was born in a nebula like Orion, perhaps 4.6 billion years ago. Somewhere in such a cradle, hydrogen collapsed, ignited, and the chain of events that led to Earth and to you was set into motion. Without these nurseries, without these colossal clouds, there would be no stars, no planets, no life. They are not just beautiful, they are essential. But then, the thought turns darker. If cradles exist, so too do graves. For every star that is born, another will die. Nebulae like Orion are temporary. In a few million years, it will dissolve, its gas spent or blown away, its nursery closed. What will remain are the stars it produced scattered, shining, carrying the memory of their violent birth into the galaxy. Beauty is fleeting. Creation is fleeting. Even the greatest cradles dissolve into silence. Here is the emotional wound. Everything we see is temporary. Rings fade, oceans boil, stars are born, then die. Even nurseries collapse. The cosmos is not a place of permanence. It is a place of endless transformation. To accept that is to accept that beauty itself is fragile. To love the Orion Nebula is to love it knowing it will vanish. And yet, in that fragility, there is comfort. Because if the cosmos is constantly remaking itself, then endings are not final. Every death is a beginning. Every cradle births not just stars, but possibilities. Somewhere within Orion's veils, another Earth may already be forming, another sun rising, another story waiting. Perhaps billions of years from now, when our Earth is long gone, beings beneath a foreign sky will look up, and their star will trace its lineage back to Orion. In that sense, we are not just watching a nebula, we are watching the future of life itself. But the mystery grows stranger when we ask, why do we find this beautiful? Why does gas, collapsing into stars, stir our hearts so deeply? Perhaps because we see ourselves in it. We, too, are born of collapse. Stars died to make us. Their ashes became our atoms. Their violence became our blood. The Orion Nebula is not just a nursery. It is family. It is memory. It is origin. Still, questions linger. If nurseries are scattered across the galaxy, how many suns are being born right now? How many futures are beginning even as we speak? Are there nebulae beyond Orion, unseen, birthing entire civilizations to come? And what of the stars that form in clusters? Do they carry with them siblings of our sun, brothers and sisters of our star, scattered across the Milky Way? What if somewhere, right now, one of those siblings shines, orbited by a planet with eyes looking back? The more we look, the less we understand, and yet, the less we understand, the more we long to see. Orion is not just a nebula, it is a question mark written in light. Close your eyes now, and imagine yourself drifting within it. Towers of gas rising around you, glowing with faint green and red light. Infant stars flickering, like candles just lit. The silence is illusory. In truth, it is thunderous winds roaring, matter collapsing, radiation screaming. But to your ears, in this dream, it is quiet. You float. You witness beginnings. You feel both awe and sorrow. Awe that creation is so immense, sorrow that it will not last, and still, you do not want to leave. But we must drift onward, for if Orion shows us birth, the next step must show us giants, the colossal stars that blaze, consume, and die in ways that defy comprehension. Stars so large that they make the sun look small, so hot that they burn out in only millions of years, so unstable that they could end in explosions bright enough to outshine galaxies. These are not cradles, these are monsters. And that is where we will go next. Part 11. The Monsters of Light. What if there are stars so large that they should not exist? Titans of fire swollen to sizes that defy reason, their bodies fragile, their futures doomed? What if the very act of shining brightly is also their death sentence, forcing them to burn themselves alive in only a few million years? These are the monsters of light, stellar giants that make our sun look like a candle beside a bonfire, stars that remind us that brilliance is often a prelude to tragedy. One such monster is Stephenson 2-18, perhaps the largest star ever measured. Its radius is estimated to be over 2,000 times that of our Sunday. Place it in the center of our solar system, and its surface would swallow Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and even Jupiter. Imagine a red sphere so immense it fills the sky of worlds light years away, glowing like an ember the size of a system. Its temperature is cooler than the sun's, about 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but its sheer volume radiates such power that it outshines hundreds of thousands of suns. To look upon it is to feel small in a way that words cannot carry. Yet immensity does not mean immortality. These stars live fast and die violently. Stephenson 2-18, like other red hypergiants, will collapse in only a few million years, an eye blink compared to our sun's 10 billion year lifetime. And when it dies, it will not fade gently. It will explode in a supernova bright enough to be seen across galaxies. For a moment, perhaps weeks, it will shine brighter than the entire Milky Way. Then, it will fall into silence, leaving behind either a black hole or a neutron star, the corpse of a monster that once ruled the sky. And Stephenson 2-18 is not alone. There is WR 102, a Wolf-Rayet star, one of the hottest known, blazing at 370,000 degrees Fahrenheit on its surface. It roars with winds 1,000 times faster than a hurricane, stripping itself of mass, shedding layers like an unraveling torch. It is a star in self-destruction, throwing off its skin into space, doomed to detonate soon. Astronomers believe it is in the final 1,000 years of its life. 1,000 years for us, a span beyond measure. For a star, it is a heartbeat. What if, even as you listen now, WR 102 is collapsing, its death cry already racing toward us, though we will not see it until long after our own lives are gone? There are blue giants too, like Rigel, in Orion's foot, glowing 30,000 times brighter than our Sunday. It is young, only a few million years old, but already exhausting itself. Its light reaches us across 860 years, meaning we see it not as it is, but as it was when medieval castles rose on Earth. Perhaps even now, Rigel is dying, and we would not know for centuries. That thought lingers. When we look at the night sky, we are looking into the past. We may already be mourning stars whose light still shines. And here lies the sting, the emotional cut that will not heal. These monsters of light are beautiful precisely because they are doomed. They live too quickly, burn too brightly, collapse too soon. They are cosmic tragedies, stories written in fire and silence. And in their fate, we glimpse our own. We, too, are brief. We, too, are fragile. We, too, live knowing that brilliance comes at a cost. But the paradox deepens. Without these monsters, we would not exist. Their explosions seed the galaxy with heavy elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, the atoms that build planets, oceans, blood, bone. Every breath you take is made of ashes from stars that once burned as giants. We are born from tragedy. We are children of death. Every cell in your body is a reminder that even destruction has purpose, that even the most violent endings are also beginnings. So what does it mean then, that the most powerful sources of light in the cosmos are also the most fragile? What if fragility itself is the price of creation? What if the universe writes its story not in permanence, but in sacrifice? To know this is to feel both sorrow and gratitude. Sorrow that beauty burns itself away. Gratitude that from that burning, we exist. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a world orbiting a giant star. The sky would never be blue. It would be crimson, gold, or white hot, blazing brighter than any sun we have known. Shadows would be sharp, days short, nights filled with eerie glow, and in the back of your mind, you would know, this will not last. This star will betray us. This brilliance will kill us. And still, you would live beneath it, awed, fearful, grateful. That is the paradox of existence under monsters of light. But then comes the darker question. What if civilizations have risen around these giants only to be erased before they could leave their mark? What if the galaxy is littered with ruins we cannot see, the ghosts of beings who lived under stars too wild to survive? Perhaps the Fermi paradox, the silence we hear when we listen for other minds, is not silence at all, but aftermath. Perhaps the stars themselves erase their children before they can speak. The more we look, the less we understand. And the less we understand, the more haunting the cosmos becomes. These monsters are both destroyers and creators, executioners and parents. They are contradictions made of fire, and contradictions, always, are where truth hides. And yet, the journey cannot stop here. For if the monsters of light teach us fragility, the next step is to face what lurks at the very heart of fragility itself, the black holes, the places where light dies, where time itself is torn apart. Orion's nebula gave us cradles. These stars gave us monsters. But the galaxy holds a darker riddle, still the abyss at its core, the devourer of suns, the silence that bends the fabric of reality. That is where we drift next. Part 12. Into the abyss, the black heart of the galaxy. What if at the center of everything we call home lies not a star, not a light, not a cradle of warmth, but an abyss? What if the heart of our galaxy is not radiant, but devouring, a black silence that consumes suns as casually as fire consumes paper? And what if, against all reason, this abyss is also the very thing that holds us together? This is the paradox of black holes, destroyers and anchors, monsters and architects. And at the very heart of the Milky Way waits the greatest of them all, Sagittarius A*. When you look up at the night sky, the Milky Way arches above like a river of light. It is easy to think of it as a painting, a smear of stars across black canvas. But that river is not still. It spins. It is a wheel of 200 billion stars, each orbiting an unseen center. And at that center, 26,000 light-years away, sits Sagittarius A times a black hole 4 million times the mass of the Sunday. We cannot see it directly. We know it is there only because stars whip around it like sparks around a bonfire, racing at speeds that defy belief. One of them, known as S2, slings past it at over 11 million miles per hour, nearly 3% the speed of light. Nothing invisible could cause such motion, except a mass so dense that space itself folds inward. Pause for a moment. Imagine being there, on a spaceship floating near the galactic center. You would not see a black sphere. You would see a strange glow, a ring of fire, gas and dust spiraling inward, heated to millions of degrees as it falls, screaming in radiation. The black hole itself is silent, invisible, but its appetite paints the sky with violence. At its edge lies the event horizon, the line that marks no return. Cross it, and you are erased. Not just destroyed, but erased from the story of the universe, hidden beyond a veil where time itself loses meaning. Time that is the deeper horror. Near a black hole, gravity bends not just space but the flow of moments. A clock falling toward Sagittarius A times would appear to slow, ticking more slowly as it approaches the edge. To an observer far away, it would freeze just before the horizon, suspended forever. To the falling clock, time would pass normally, until suddenly, inevitably, it ended. What does that mean? That the very rhythm of existence is negotiable, that time itself is not constant, but fragile, malleable, a fabric that can be stretched and torn. Black holes are not just monsters of matter, they are monsters of reality. And yet, they are not entirely evil. Without them, galaxies might not exist at all. Their immense gravity anchors billions of stars, binding spirals together. The very beauty of the Milky Way's arms owes its order to the black heart at its center. It is a paradox we struggle to hold. The destroyer is also the creator, the predator also the parent. Without Sagittarius A*, there may be no Milky Way. Without destruction, no structure. Without the abyss, no home. But the questions deepen. What lies beyond the horizon? Einstein's equations say collapse, infinity, a singularity where density becomes infinite and the laws of physics fail. But infinity is not science. Infinity is an admission of ignorance. It means we do not know. Perhaps black holes lead to other universes. Perhaps they end in white holes, fountains of creation. Or perhaps they are simply dead ends, bottomless pits where information itself vanishes. And here lies the wound. If information can vanish, if the story of a particle can be erased, then the universe is not logical. It is not fair. It can forget. Some physicists refuse to accept that. They argue that information must survive somehow, encoded on the surface of the horizon, preserved in faint radiation, written into the cosmos like scars. Others suspect new physics is waiting here, truths we cannot yet imagine. Whatever the answer, black holes are not just objects. They are questions, sharpened into existence. And still, they frighten us. For what if one strays too near? Our galaxy is filled with smaller black holes, the remnants of massive stars. Most drift harmlessly in the dark, invisible, but a wandering giant could, in theory, pass close to us, its gravity twisting orbits, tearing planets from the Sunday we would have no defense, no warning. Only night deepening until everything we know is lost. The abyss is not far away. It could come. That is the nightmare. But pause again. The nightmare is also wonder, because black holes are, in their way, the purest testaments to mystery. They show us that the universe is not fully knowable, not yet. That reality still holds secrets that humble us, and perhaps that is why we cannot look away. Close your eyes and imagine falling, not fast, but slow, like drifting through thick water. The stars above you bend into arcs, light stretches, colors shift. Ahead, the horizon glows faintly, a ring of fire circling a perfect absence. You know you cannot escape, and yet you do not want to. There is beauty in surrender. There is peace in the abyss. But as deep as this silence is, deeper mysteries await. Black holes remind us of endings, but there are other anomalies that bend not space, but galaxies themselves. Immense structures stretched across billions of light years, walls of stars so vast they challenge the very foundation of cosmology. If black holes tear at reality, then these walls tear at our understanding of the universe itself. That is where we drift next. Part 13. The impossible walls of the universe. What if the universe itself is bigger than our theories allow? What if scattered across the cosmos are structures so immense, so far beyond scale, that they should not exist at all? Imagine walls of galaxies, billions of suns woven together like threads, stretching not millions, but billions of light years across. These are not stars, not clusters, not even single superclusters. These are cosmic walls, spanning the universe in sheets of light and matter, defying the very principle that says the universe should be smooth when seen from far away. They are real, and they are unsettling. For decades, cosmologists believed in the cosmological principle, that on the largest scales, the universe is uniform. Like foam, its galaxies spread evenly, with no preferred direction, no massive irregularities. Local clumps existed, clusters, filaments, voids, but zoom out far enough, and everything blurred into sameness. That was the theory. Then came the observations. In the 1,980 seconds, astronomers discovered the Great Wall, a ribbon of galaxies 500 million light-years across. It was shocking at the time, but perhaps explainable. Then, in the 2000s, came the Sloan Great Wall, 1.4 billion light-years wide, a wall larger than imagination, pushing the boundaries of theory. And then, in 2013, came the discovery that broke confidence itself. the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall, a structure so large it spans 10 billion light-years. 10 billion. Nearly 1/10 the diameter of the observable universe. A wall that is not a wall, but a scar across reality. Pause here. 10 billion light-years. Light, the fastest thing we know, takes 10 billion years to cross it. This structure existed when the universe itself was still young. Its scale violates the expectation that matter should be evenly spread. It should not be there, but it is. And the question lingers, what does it mean when the universe itself disobeys its rules? Some suggest these walls are illusions, chance alignments of galaxy clusters that only look connected from our vantage point. Others argue they are real structures, evidence that our models are incomplete. If they are real, then the universe is not smooth on the largest scales. It is patterned, textured, built of walls and voids like cosmic architecture. And here lies the wound. If the universe has walls, then it has shape. And if it has shape, then perhaps it has intention. For how can such immensity arise from randomness? How can gravity weave such tapestry unaided? What if what we call structure is, in fact, design? Of course, science is cautious. These walls may be the natural outcome of inflation, the rapid expansion of the early universe stretching quantum fluctuations into vast webs. But even that explanation feels like myth. How can something so tiny become something so large? How can randomness scale into such symmetry? The cosmos answers with silence. And the silence is heavy, because if these walls are real, then we may never be able to cross them, never fully map them, never touch their edges. They are too vast, too far, too woven into the fabric of reality. They are beyond exploration, beyond contact. They are monuments that dwarf imagination. But what if they are more than monuments? What if they are boundaries? Imagine that the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall is not just a structure, but a frontier, the edge of a region, the seam of a cosmic quilt. What if our universe is stitched together from such walls, like chambers in a labyrinth? And what if, beyond those chambers, something else waits? This is where awe becomes fear, because if the universe has boundaries, then perhaps it is not infinite. Perhaps it is finite, enclosed, constructed. And if it is constructed, then by whom? For what? The very thought is unbearable, and yet it refuses to leave. Still, there is another, gentler interpretation. Perhaps the walls are simply the marks of growth, the scars left by expansion. The universe, like a tree, carries its history in its rings. These walls may be fossils, the frozen record of ancient processes we do not yet understand. Not intention, not design, but memory. If so, then they are not warnings, but whispers, reminders that the cosmos has a past as complex as its present. Yet, the paradox remains. Whether boundaries or fossils, walls or illusions, they remind us of the same truth. Our models are incomplete. The more we look, the less we understand. The universe is not the neat, smooth expanse we imagined. It is jagged, irregular, scarred. It is alive with strangeness. Close your eyes and picture it. A sheet of galaxies stretching farther than sight, clusters linked like beads on invisible threads, a lattice not of human making, but of cosmic gravity itself. To gaze at it is to feel your chest tighten, your breath catch, because beauty on that scale is indistinguishable from terror. And still, we cannot look away, because walls, by their nature, divide. And when we see division, we wonder, what lies on the other side? That is the thought that leads us onward. For beyond walls and lattices, there are questions of destiny, not structure, but fate. If the cosmos can build monuments so vast, what will it do with them? What end awaits a universe already shaped by scars 10 billion light-years long? That is where we drift next, to the end of time itself, and the possible ways the universe might die. So let the vision of the walls linger, let their immensity haunt you. Ahead lies something darker still, the scenarios of cosmic death, the futures of everything. Part 14. The death of everything. What if everything ends? Not just the Earth, not just the sun, not just galaxies, but everything: time, matter, light itself. What if the universe, vast beyond imagination, is not eternal at all, but fragile, temporary, destined for an ending written into its very fabric. Tonight, we dare to follow that thought, to drift into the scenarios of cosmic death, and to face what they mean for us, for everything we have ever known. There are three great possibilities, each as unsettling as the last. The first is the Big Rip. In this vision, the force we call dark energy, the mysterious driver of the universe's expansion, does not remain constant, but grows stronger. Right now, galaxies are drifting away from each other, the fabric of space stretching. But if dark energy accelerates, then the expansion will not stop. It will quicken, tearing galaxies apart, then solar systems, then planets, then molecules, until even atoms themselves are ripped into nothing. Imagine a future where the night sky grows emptier with every generation, galaxies fleeing until they fade beyond sight. Imagine Earth orbiting the sun, only to feel its path unravel as gravity itself is overpowered, as orbits shatter, as oceans evaporate, as our very bodies dissolve. In this ending, the universe does not collapse. It explodes slowly at first, then violently, until nothing remains. The second possibility is the Big Crunch. Here, the universe does not rip apart, but falls inward. Perhaps dark energy is temporary, an illusion that will one day vanish. If so, gravity may regain dominance, halting expansion and reversing it. Galaxies would drift closer, then collide. Stars would ignite in frenzies of creation, then extinguish. The cosmos would contract, shrinking until every atom, every photon, every fragment of space itself collapsed into a single point. It would be as if the universe returned to its beginning, to a singularity of infinite density. And then, perhaps, another Big Bang. A cycle, a rhythm of birth and death, of expansion and collapse, infinite repetition without memory. What if our universe is not the first, nor the last, but one in an endless chain of universes, rising and falling like tides? And then there is the third possibility, perhaps the most chilling, the heat death. In this vision, the expansion continues forever, but not violently. Instead, it stretches galaxies farther and farther apart until no new stars are born. The old ones burn out, the giants explode, the black holes devour what they can, then evaporate into nothing. Over trillions upon trillions of years, the cosmos cools, dims, empties. Energy spreads thin, too thin to sustain any process. Life cannot survive. Thought cannot survive. The universe becomes a dark sea of fading particles, drifting forever in silence, not with a bang, but with a whisper. This is entropy's final victory, the erasure of all pattern, all warmth, all story. Pause here. Each ending is terrifying in its own way. The rip is violence, tearing everything to pieces. The crunch is collapse, crushing everything into one point. The heat death is decay, the slow fading of all meaning. Which is worse? Which is more merciful? Which would you choose if choice were possible? And yet, each carries a strange comfort. For the rip, though violent, is quick. The crunch, though crushing, may allow rebirth. The heat death, though silent, is patient, granting life unimaginable eons before the end. In each ending, there is also a hidden gift, perspective. Our lives, our fears, our struggles, they are not the center of the story. They are flickers, brief but luminous, within a cosmos that will outlast us by scales we cannot comprehend. But the questions grow darker. What if we are already seeing signs? What if the acceleration we measure today is the whisper of the rip? What if cosmic microwave background fluctuations are echoes of past cycles? What if entropy is already gnawing, invisible, inevitable? To study the universe is to study death, and in that study, we face not just physics, but philosophy. Because here is the sting: if everything ends, what does it mean that we exist at all? If the story of the cosmos has no final triumph, no eternal survival, why does it tell any story at all? And yet perhaps the answer is gentler. Perhaps meaning is not in permanence, but in presence. Perhaps the miracle is not that the universe lasts forever, but that it exists now, that it gives us stars to see, oceans to feel, each other to love. Perhaps the meaning of a brief candle is not diminished by its brevity, but enhanced by it. Close your eyes. Picture the rip, galaxies flying apart like sparks. Picture the crunch, all things collapsing to fire. Picture the heat death, a sea of silence without end. Each vision is terrifying, each vision is beautiful, because each forces us to hold tighter to the present, to the fragile gift of now. And yet the mystery deepens still, for beyond endings lies another possibility. What if death itself is not final? What if, beyond collapse or silence, something new waits? A doorway, a rebirth, a transformation? What if the universe is not a story that ends, but a story that changes chapters? That is where we must drift next. So let the thought of endings linger, let it ache, let it haunt. For ahead lies something stranger still, the idea that the universe is not dying once, but living through eras, epochs so vast that they stretch beyond imagination, each with its own laws, its own rhythms. Not death, but metamorphosis. That is where we drift next. Part 15. The eras of the universe. What if the universe itself has a lifespan, an unfolding not in years or centuries, but in unimaginable epochs, each with its own rhythm, each a different face of reality? What if all of time is not one story, but a sequence of ages, a cosmic calendar stretching beyond comprehension, written not in ink, but in stars and silence? Tonight, we walk through those eras, from the blazing present to the shadowed future, and glimpse the fate of everything. The first is the stelliferous era, the age of stars. This is the epoch we live in now. Galaxies glitter, suns burn, planets circle, life emerges. This age began not long after the Big Bang, when hydrogen collapsed into the first stars, and it will last for trillions of years. For us, this feels eternal. But in the ledger of the cosmos, it is just the opening chapter. During this time, fusion powers the universe. Nuclear fire forges heavy elements. Supernovae enrich galaxies. Civilizations rise and fall beneath skies filled with light. It is an age of brightness, of creation, of possibility. Yet it is only temporary. Stars are finite. Their fuel dwindles. Their fires go out. And when the last star dies, the stelliferous era ends. The universe then enters the degenerate era. The great furnaces extinguish. Galaxies grow dark. What remains are embers, white dwarfs cooling slowly, neutron stars fading, brown dwarfs glowing faintly. Black holes roam like predators, swallowing what they can. Planets wander in frozen orbits around corpses of suns. This age is long, incomprehensibly long. It stretches for 100 trillion years. During this era, the universe is not dead, but twilight. Matter persists. Gravity still binds. Life, if it survives, would live in niches, clinging to faint warmth, eking out existence around dying stars. Imagine civilizations lighting their worlds with fusion built by hand, artificial suns in a sky gone black. It is not impossible, but it is fragile. Eventually, even the embers fade. White dwarfs cool into black dwarfs, invisible spheres of frozen carbon. Neutron stars dissipate their heat. The cosmos grows silent. Then, the black hole era begins. Black holes dominate. They consume what remains: stars, dwarfs, planets. For trillions upon trillions of years, galaxies are graveyards, and black holes are the tombstones. They are the last giants, ruling a universe of ash. But even they cannot last forever. Slowly, they evaporate through Hawking radiation, shrinking over unimaginable spans of time until they vanish. The last great monsters, too, fade. What comes next is the Dark Era, a time beyond imagining, when the universe is nothing but drifting particles, low energy, photons, and the faint whisper of radiation. Protons themselves may decay, dissolving into subatomic fragments. If they do, matter itself will cease to exist. No stars, no planets, no black holes, only a sea of entropy. Featureless, endless, cold. The universe, once filled with brilliance, will become a quiet void. Pause here. Imagine living in the stelliferous era, as we do, and knowing that all this light is temporary. The galaxies, the stars, the planets, they are not eternal. They are just a phase, a fleeting bloom. We think of the universe as endless, but in truth, we are children of a springtime, living in the brief flowering before the long winter. And yet there is awe in that thought. For what are the chances that we exist here, now, in the age of light. That we live in the rare window where stars burn, where skies shine, where eyes can look up and see brilliance. The odds stagger. We might have lived in darkness, but instead, we live in radiance. To recognize that is to recognize the miracle of presence. But the questions deepen. If the universe moves through eras, is there a purpose? Is this a cycle or a line? Will the dark era truly be the end, or only a transformation into something new? Some speculate that black holes may spawn baby universes within their cores. Others imagine quantum fluctuations birthing new big bangs from the vacuum. Perhaps the dark era is not the end, but the soil for new beginnings. Perhaps universes breed, not once, but endlessly. And then comes the most haunting question of all. If time is divided into eras, why are we here, now, in this one? Why not in the degenerate era, or the dark? Why do we exist in this golden slice of time, where stars still burn and planets still bloom? Is it luck? Is it necessity? Or is it something more? The thought lingers like a riddle, never answered, always echoing. The more we look, the less we understand. But perhaps understanding is not the point. Perhaps awe is enough. Perhaps the lesson of the eras is not despair at their endings, but gratitude for their unfolding. We exist, for a brief moment, in the age of stars. We are starlight brought to consciousness, aware of its own fragility. That awareness is rare. That awareness is meaning. Close your eyes. Picture the timeline stretching ahead. First, stars burn. Then, they fade. Black holes devour. Then they, too, die. At last, silence reigns. It is terrifying. It is humbling. And yet, it is beautiful. For every ending is also a reminder of what it means to exist now, to breathe in this light while it lasts. But our journey does not end with eras. For beyond physics and time lies a deeper, more disquieting question. Is this universe even real? Or are we, perhaps, shadows on a screen, data in a simulation, illusions conjured by something greater? If the cosmos passes through ages, could the very stage itself be artificial? That is the mystery waiting next. So let the eras echo in your mind. Let the thought of the dark era chill you. Ahead lies not just the future, but the possibility that the future itself is imagined, that the universe is not reality, but design. Part 16. The simulation hypothesis. Are we real? What if everything you see, every star, every planet, every face you love is not real at all? What if the universe is not matter and energy, but information, lines of code flowing through some unimaginable computer? And what if your memories, your feelings, even the very question of your existence, are nothing more than programmed illusions? Few ideas are as unsettling as the simulation hypothesis, the suggestion that we may be living inside a cosmic simulation, a reality designed, not discovered. The hook of this idea is its simplicity. If technology advances far enough, civilizations could simulate entire worlds, complete with conscious beings who believe they are real. On Earth, we already build crude versions, computer games, virtual realities, digital landscapes. Each year, they grow more detailed, more immersive, more convincing. If humans can already simulate small realities in just a few decades of computing, what could a civilization millions of years ahead of us achieve? To them, building universes might be trivial, and if it is possible, then perhaps it has already been done. Perhaps we are inside one now. The unsettling part is not just the possibility, but the probability. Some philosophers argue that if advanced civilizations can create simulations, they would create many. Simulated beings might vastly outnumber real ones. If so, the odds are overwhelming that we are not the originals, but the copies, that we are characters in a program, not players. Pause and let that thought press against your mind. The ground beneath your feet, the stars above your head, the very sense of your own body, none of it would be fundamental. It would all be rendering, a theater of perception, displayed for reasons we cannot know. What does it mean to live in such a world? What does it mean to love in such a world? Is love diminished if it is written in code? Or is it still real because you feel it? Science, too, circles this mystery. Physicists have noticed oddities that feel like hints of an artificial stage. The universe has a maximum speed light. It has indivisible units, quanta. Space itself may be pixelated at the Planck scale, as if reality were built on a grid too fine for us to see. Why should reality have limits, unless it is computed? Why should equations fit so neatly, unless the universe is mathematics made flesh? The suspicion lingers. Maybe the cosmos feels like code because it is code. And yet, the thought cuts deeper. If this is a simulation, then someone, or something, is running it. Who are they? Why did they build it? Are we entertainment, experiments, memories, art? Are we alone in the program, or are there others like us, unaware they too are simulations? And the darkest question, what happens if they turn it off? Here is the emotional sting, to realize that your life, your story, could be erased not by natural law, but by decision, that the cosmos could end not in heat, death, or big rip, but in a keystroke. That eternity is not guaranteed, not even possible, if the universe is only rented time on someone else's machine. The terror is not death. The terror is arbitrariness. But there is a mirror hidden here too, because if we are simulations, then what is consciousness? If our thoughts are code, then code can produce awareness. That means the boundary between real and unreal is thinner than we think. If love feels real, it is real. If joy feels real, it is real. The origin does not diminish the experience. Existence is not about what lies beneath. It is about what is lived. Close your eyes and imagine it. The universe as a lattice of numbers, a grand simulation humming with patterns. Galaxies as data clusters, stars as processes, planets as subroutines, you as an equation unfolding moment by moment. Somewhere, beyond this stage, the architects watch, silent. Maybe they marvel at us. Maybe they do not care. Maybe they are gone, and we are running on autopilot, a simulation adrift, unaware its creators no longer exist. The thought is unbearable and yet intoxicating, because if we are code, then perhaps we, too, can create. Perhaps the deepest truth of the universe is not stars or atoms, but information itself, endlessly rewriting, endlessly reproducing, eternally making. In that sense, even if we are simulations, we are still part of something larger, the universe's hunger to imagine itself. And yet the suspicion lingers. What if déjà vu? What if the strange coincidences of life are not accidents, but glitches? What if the unexplainable mysteries of physics are not mysteries, but artifacts of programming? What if the universe leaves us hints, daring us to notice that the curtain is thin, that the walls are made of code? If so, then perhaps our greatest question is not whether we are real, but why we are here. The more we look, the less we understand. And yet, the less we understand, the more we long to know. If we are simulations, then meaning is not given to us, it is created by us. And perhaps that is the most profound truth of all. But the journey cannot stop here, for if reality itself may be simulation, then we must turn to the heart of the mystery, not how it began, not how it ends, but why it exists at all. What if behind simulations, behind universes, behind time itself, there is a deeper question, the question of purpose? That is where we must go next. So let the suspicion linger in your mind. Let it haunt you. Let it unsettle you. Ahead lies something even more elusive than code, more fragile than physics. The possibility that the universe itself is not about existence, but about meaning. Part 17. The search for purpose in a silent universe. What if the greatest question is not how the universe began or how it will end, but why it exists at all? What if the silence we hear when we point our telescopes into the sky is not absence, but a challenge? The cosmos surrounds us with overwhelming grandeur, yet it never whispers an explanation. Stars burn, galaxies spin, black holes devour, but none of it tells us why. We are left to invent purpose, to weave meaning into a silence that refuses to speak. For thousands of years, humans have searched for purpose in the heavens. Ancient cultures looked at constellations and saw gods, myths, and stories. Philosophers asked whether the universe was made for us or whether we are accidents drifting in chaos. Modern science has stripped away illusions, showing us that the Earth is not the center, that our galaxy is not unique, that even our universe may not be the only one. And yet, the deeper we go, the louder the silence becomes. No signposts, no explanations, only endless questions. Still, we search. SETI listens for signals, scanning the skies for patterns that might reveal intelligence beyond Earth. Thousands of exoplanets are catalogued, their atmospheres studied for biosignatures. We send probes to the edge of the solar system, carrying golden records engraved with music and greetings, desperate to tell someone we were here. And so far, nothing has answered. The Fermi paradox hangs over us. If the galaxy is vast and old, why do we hear no one? Why are the skies so quiet? The silence gnaws at us because it echoes our own fear. We want to believe that life has meaning, that our existence is not a brief flicker. If the universe is filled with life, then perhaps we belong to something larger. But if it is empty, if we are alone, then perhaps we must face the possibility that meaning exists only if we create it ourselves. That is the knife edge we balance upon. Hope for connection, dread of isolation. And yet, silence does not prove emptiness. Perhaps civilizations are there, but hidden, cautious, unwilling to speak. Perhaps life thrives beneath oceans of alien worlds, confined by seas, never sending signals to the stars. Perhaps intelligence flourishes but burns too quickly, extinguished before it can reach out. Or perhaps this is the most haunting thought: the universe itself is designed to be silent, to force us inward, to make us ask why instead of waiting for someone else to answer. Pause for a moment. Imagine standing beneath a sky so filled with stars it hurts your eyes. Billions of suns, billions of possibilities. And yet, none has spoken to us. The silence presses against your chest, heavy, infinite. But then you realize the silence itself is the message. It tells us that purpose is not given. It must be chosen. It must be made. Here is the sting, the emotional cut that lingers. If there is no cosmic purpose, no grand design, then every meaning we cling to is fragile, invented, temporary. Love, art, kindness, memory, these things are small. They do not change the stars, but they change us. And perhaps that is enough. Perhaps purpose is not something written into the universe. Perhaps it is something we write into ourselves. But then comes the intoxicating thought. What if the silence is temporary? What if, one day, a signal arrives? A burst of radio waves repeating a pattern, undeniable, deliberate. What if a telescope captures light pulses too regular to be natural, too precise to be coincidence? The moment would change everything. Overnight, humanity's sense of purpose would shift. We would no longer be alone. The silence would break. And meaning would no longer be something we invent, it would be something we share. Until that day, we are left with questions. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why does matter exist? Why does life arise? Why can the universe be understood at all? Some call it luck, others call it miracle, some call it inevitability, but whatever the name, the wonder remains. We exist. Against the odds, against the silence, we exist. And in that fact alone, perhaps there is already purpose. Close your eyes, feel your breath, your heartbeat, your awareness. These things are real, here, now. The universe may never tell us why it exists, but it gave us this, the chance to ask, the chance to wonder, the chance to feel awe. That is not nothing, that is everything. But the search does not end here, for if silence forces us to make meaning, then the next question is darker still. What if the universe itself is hostile to meaning? What if its very laws are designed to erase, to forget, to dissolve? Ahead lies entropy, the destroyer of memory, the eraser of patterns. That is where we must drift next, into the heart of nothingness, where even purpose itself may not survive. So let the silence echo. Let it hurt. Let it comfort. The search for purpose has only begun. Part 18. The Tyranny of Entropy. What if the true enemy of the universe is not fire, not collapse, not even time itself, but forgetting? What if the great tyrant that rules everything is entropy, the quiet, relentless force that turns order into disorder, memory into silence, structure into dust? We fear explosions, collisions, endings, but entropy is more terrifying. It does not roar, it whispers, it waits, and in the end, it wins. Entropy is the second law of thermodynamics written into existence. In any closed system, disorder always increases. Heat spreads, patterns fade, energy dissipates. What was once sharp becomes blurred, what was once structured dissolves. It is why ice melts, why stars burn out, why your own body ages. Entropy is not destruction by violence, it is destruction by inevitability. Look at the night sky. Each star is a furnace, burning hydrogen into helium, pouring energy into space. But that energy spreads. It does not return. It dissipates into the cold. Slowly, relentlessly. The difference between hot and cold diminishes. Entropy is not just decay, it is the equalizer. It seeks sameness, uniformity, a state where nothing can change. Because change requires imbalance. Without contrast, there is no motion. Without motion, there is no life. This is the tyranny. Entropy erases. Not suddenly, but gradually, mercilessly. Every memory you hold is written in fragile neurons, vulnerable to time. Every civilization builds monuments, but wind and rain wear them down. Every galaxy shines, but its stars exhaust their fuel. Entropy is patient, and patience is undefeatable. Pause, and let the weight of that settle. One day, not just you, not just Earth, but the entire cosmos will succumb. In the far future, entropy will stretch across the universe like a shroud. Galaxies will dim, stars will fade, black holes will evaporate, and what will remain is uniform heat, spread so thin it cannot do work, cannot sustain structure, cannot remember. It will be a universe not of silence, but of forgetting, a universe that forgets itself. And yet, here is the sting that pierces deepest. Entropy is already working now. Every breath you take, every flicker of thought, every light in the sky, it all produces entropy, increases disorder, moves the universe closer to its quiet end. Even beauty, even love, even creation itself adds to the tally. The cost of existence is entropy. The cost of order is decay. But then comes the paradox that both terrifies and comforts. Without entropy, there would be no change, no evolution, no life. If everything stayed perfect, balanced, unchanging, then nothing new could happen. Stars would not ignite, planets would not form, organisms would not evolve. Entropy is both executioner and midwife. It kills, but it also creates. It erases, but it allows beginnings. Without it, the universe would be frozen in sterility. With it, we have dynamism, history, possibility. Still, the emotional wound remains. If entropy always rises, then all victories are temporary. Every civilization will fall, every star will fade, every story will end. What, then, is the point of meaning if entropy will erase it all? This is the fear that haunts us, that nothing lasts, that nothing matters. And yet, perhaps the answer lies in how we live within the tyranny. Meaning is not permanence. Meaning is experience. A song does not lose its beauty because it ends. A sunset does not lose its brilliance because night follows. Love does not lose its truth because it fades. If anything, impermanence intensifies meaning. It forces us to treasure what is fragile. It reminds us that now is sacred. Entropy robs us of eternity, but it gives us urgency. Close your eyes and imagine the far future. Trillions of years from now, galaxies gone, stars extinguished, only faint embers glowing in the dark. Then imagine, somewhere, a tiny pocket of life holding on, burning its own light against the tide of entropy, creating art, telling stories, loving one another even as the universe itself forgets. That image is heartbreaking, and yet it is also magnificent, because to resist entropy, even briefly, is an act of defiance. To create order in a world fated for disorder is a rebellion. And perhaps that rebellion is the highest purpose life can have. But what if entropy is not the final word? Some physicists wonder whether the universe might reset, that when entropy reaches its maximum, something new emerges. Perhaps from the ashes of forgetfulness, a new cosmos ignites. Perhaps entropy is not death, but transformation. Or perhaps this is the thought that lingers like smoke. Entropy itself is not a law, but a veil, hiding deeper rules we do not yet see. What if the universe has more chapters than we know? The more we look, the less we understand. And yet, the less we understand, the more beautiful the mystery becomes. Entropy frightens us because it erases, but it also teaches us to value, to love, to live. In its shadow, we find our light. So let the thought linger. Entropy rules, but we resist. Entropy erases, but we remember. Entropy dissolves, but we create. The universe is temporary, and so are we. But perhaps, within that brevity, there is a kind of eternity, not in duration, but in significance. And yet, even entropy is not the strangest riddle, for beyond heat and order lies another possibility, that reality itself may be layered, that there may be countless universes, each with their own rules, each with their own destinies. If entropy writes the end of our story, perhaps another story begins next door. That is where we drift next, into the multiverse, the idea that our cosmos is only one of many, an island in a greater ocean of reality. So breathe gently, and let the thought of entropy settle in your mind. The tyranny is real, but so is our defiance. Ahead lies not an ending, but a widening and infinite sea of universes, waiting. Part 19. The infinite sea, the multiverse hypothesis. What if this universe is not the only one? What if everything we see, the stars, the galaxies, the laws of physics themselves is just one bubble in an endless froth, one wave in an infinite sea? And what if, beyond the edge of what we can ever observe, there are countless other universes, each with their own laws, their own histories, their own versions of us? The multiverse is not science fiction alone. It is one of the most haunting possibilities in modern cosmology. The idea arises from several paths, each unsettling. Quantum mechanics whispers it. In the quantum world, particles do not exist in one state until observed. They live in superpositions, many states at once. One interpretation, the many worlds view, suggests that every quantum decision splits reality. Every time a particle chooses, the universe branches. Every moment you face a choice, turn left or right, speak or stay silent, live or die, the universe splits. In one branch, you are here. In another, you are not. Infinity unfolds from every second, spawning countless versions of you, each as real as this one, each forever unaware of the others. Inflation theory also hints at it. In the first instant after the Big Bang, the universe expanded faster than light, a burst of exponential growth. Some models suggest this inflation never ended, but continues. In pockets, forever bubbling new universes into existence. We live in one bubble. There are others, infinite others, each beyond our cosmic horizon. Their constants may differ, their physics may diverge. In some, gravity may be stronger, stars smaller, life impossible. In others, life may flourish in ways we cannot dream. The multiverse, in this vision, is a sea of bubbles, each universe drifting endlessly, never touching, never knowing. And then comes the deepest possibility, that the multiverse is not just physics, but logic, that every possible universe exists by necessity. Every variation of every law, every pattern of matter, every possible history. If so, then nothing is unique. Everything that can happen, does happen, somewhere. There is a universe where dinosaurs never died, a universe where Earth never formed, a universe where you are listening now in a different language, on a different planet, under a different star. Infinity is not big. Infinity is everything. Pause here. Let the weight of that sink in. If the multiverse exists, then this life, your life, is not singular. It is one thread among uncountable others. Every decision branches. Every moment spawns echoes. The version of you who chose differently still exists, just elsewhere. Which is the real you? Are you the primary, or just one shadow among many? And if there are infinite yous, what does that do to the idea of self? Here lies the sting. We seek meaning in uniqueness, in rarity, in the fragile miracle of being here once. But in the multiverse, nothing is rare. Nothing is unique. Every event repeats somewhere. Every life echoes. Even this thought, this very moment of wonder, is being thought right now in another universe by another version of you. If everything happens infinitely, does anything matter? Or does it matter infinitely more? The paradox burns. Some feel despair at the thought that our choices are illusions, that other versions of us undo them endlessly. Others feel awe that the multiverse guarantees every dream, every hope, every possibility. Somewhere, always, it is true. And yet, science cannot answer whether the multiverse is real. We cannot see beyond our horizon. We cannot touch other universes. The evidence is indirect, theoretical, suggestive. The cosmos offers us silence, as it always does. But in that silence, imagination flourishes. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself standing on a shore, facing an ocean that stretches without end. Waves rise, crash, fall. Each wave is a universe. Each bubble is a cosmos. Some shimmer bright, some collapse instantly, some endure for eons. You are in one wave, one bubble, one fragile sphere. But there are others, uncountable others, rolling on forever. And as you watch, you feel small, but also you feel infinite. Because if there are infinite universes, then you are not only here, you are everywhere. But then comes the darker thought. What if, in another universe, versions of us have already reached the stars? What if, in another branch, humanity has already transcended entropy, already escaped death, already become something greater? And we, this version, are left behind, trapped in silence, watching other selves live the futures we can only dream. The multiverse is not just wonder. It is envy. It is loss. It is the fear that we are not the best version of ourselves. The more we look, the less we understand. But the multiverse forces us to see meaning differently. If everything happens somewhere, then purpose is not about uniqueness. It is about presence. You exist here, now, in this branch, in this bubble. That is enough. And still, questions bloom. What if universes collide? What if they leak into each other? What if déjà vu, strange coincidences, impossible instincts are whispers from other selves, bleeding through the fabric? What if our dreams are memories from parallel lives? What if consciousness itself is not confined to one universe, but drifts across many, tasting echoes of infinity? The silence does not answer, but perhaps silence is the answer. The multiverse is not meant to comfort. It is meant to humble. It is meant to remind us that reality is not small, not limited, not simple. It is vast beyond measure, strange beyond comprehension, endless beyond hope. Close your eyes and breathe. The multiverse stretches ahead, a sea without shore. You float in one bubble, and that is enough. You are real here. You are alive here. You are aware here. And that, perhaps, is meaning enough, even if infinity stretches beyond you. But our journey does not end in infinity, for beyond multiplicity lies reflection, the final question of what all of this means, not for the universe, but for us. If there are infinite worlds, infinite versions, infinite fates, then what is the role of this one fragile earth, this one fragile humanity? That is where we drift next, the final reflections, the universal meaning, the closing of the circle. So let the ocean of universes linger in your mind. Let it haunt you. Let it thrill you. Ahead lies not another theory, but the final meditation. What it means to be human beneath infinite stars. Part 20. The final reflection, our place in the infinite. What if, after all the stars, all the black holes, all the walls and multiverses, the final question is not about the cosmos at all, but about us? What if the universe is vast beyond measure, strange beyond belief, endless beyond imagination, and yet the deepest mystery lies not in galaxies, but in the human heart that dares to ask why? We have wandered through fire and darkness, oceans and voids, endings and infinities. And now, as the journey closes, we turn back to ourselves, small beings beneath impossible skies, and ask, what is our place in all of this? The science tells us one story. We are stardust. The carbon in our veins, the oxygen in our breath, the iron in our blood, all forged in the cores of stars that lived and died long before Earth was born. We are matter recycled, patterns of atoms dancing briefly in the form called human. When we look at the night sky, we are, in a very real sense, looking at family. The universe is not foreign. It is our origin. But science alone does not still the ache. For if we are stardust, we are also impermanence. The stars that made us are gone. The star that warms us will die. The galaxies themselves may fade. And yet, we are here. For a blink of cosmic time, we are alive. We ask questions. We imagine. We love. In a universe that forgets, we remember. That, too, is a kind of defiance. Pause and feel the weight of that. You are alive in the Stelliferous era, in the rare window when stars still burn, when skies are still bright, when the universe is still young enough to shimmer. Trillions of years from now, no eyes may gaze at galaxies, no minds may wonder at their beauty. But you here now get to witness it. You are one of the lucky few in all eternity who live in a universe still filled with light. That alone is a miracle. And here lies the most haunting truth. The universe may have no ultimate purpose. It may not care whether we exist or vanish. It may never answer our questions. And yet, the absence of cosmic purpose does not erase meaning. It magnifies it, because meaning is not given from outside. Meaning is made from within. Love is meaning. Curiosity is meaning. Beauty is meaning. We are small, yes, but we are small in a way that matters. Close your eyes. Imagine again the walls of galaxies, the monsters of light, the orphans adrift, the oceans without shore. Imagine the black holes devouring, the entropy erasing, the multiverse blooming endlessly. And then, in the center of all that, imagine a single human heart beating, a single voice whispering a question in the dark. That is us. Fragile, temporary, yet luminous. Our place is not to conquer the infinite. Our place is to bear witness, to feel awe, to turn silence into song. And perhaps this is the comfort at the end of the journey that is enough. To be aware at all, to see the stars, to know we are here, to hold one another beneath a sky that does not promise answers, that is enough. We do not need eternity to have meaning. We only need this moment, this brief flare of consciousness, this fragile now. The more we looked, the less we understood. And yet, the less we understood, the more wonder we found. That is the rhythm of existence, not certainty, not permanence. Wonder, always wonder. And so, we closed the circle. We began with anomalies, with mysteries, with questions that unsettled. We end with a reflection that soothes. The universe may never give us answers, but it gives us itself. It gives us stars to see, mysteries to chase, and each other to share them with. That, in the end, may be the greatest gift of all. Before we part, let me leave you with this. If this quiet journey has brought you even a flicker of peace, even a spark of awe, I am grateful you have shared it with me. A gentle like or a soft tap on subscribe is not just a click. It is a way of telling me that these night voyages matter, that I should keep creating them. And if you wish, I would love to know where you are listening from and to hear your reflections or suggestions. Your words, whether brief or long, are like stars to me, tiny lights that guide my path, reminders that this voyage is shared. So breathe deeply now, and let the cosmos settle inside you. You are small, you are fragile, you are temporary. But you are also stardust that thinks, a fragment of the universe that has learned to wonder about itself. In that, you are infinite. Good night, fellow traveler. May you sleep beneath these stars with peace in your heart, and wake with wonder still glowing in your soul.